What's going on, Mutha Truckers? So today's segment, we have on the CEO of the funding booth. So we're talking about the banking and financing of equipment, semi-trucks, trailers. And the reason why we're going to talk about this is because we want to know the trucking economy and how bad is it, and what banks are scared of and what banks are not scared of. And maybe this will give you a better idea of where the trucking industry is going. And basically, if the banks are willing to give you a loan, that means that they trust that you're going to pay it. That means that they trust that you have a secure enough job. And interesting enough, OTR is not where it's at for the most part. You know, it looks like banks are feeling more comfortable with truck drivers that are doing more local jobs and contracts. So, Mutha Truckers, let's get into this. And I appreciate you guys. Take the time and follow the show. And I'll do my best to have interesting topics and segments just like this.
Thing is, honestly, a lot of banks aren't lending anymore. So honestly, a lot of the people watching the show have great bank relationships with people that no longer lend in trucking, right? So now they're like lost because they've had such a great relationship with somebody for so long, and then that person just pulled the cord out from underneath them because now we can't lend on trucking. It's happened with multiple banks, right? I've seen it happen a lot. So, for those people who have those good relationships that are kind of lost, yeah, we can help them too. We can still put them into good opportunities where they can grow their business. It's just, it's a tough time in the industry.
Bob, what we'll do is for some people that don't have 5 minutes or 27 minutes to watch this whole video, right? Let's give it to them in less than 2 minutes, a highlight of what we talked about today. So for the people, some people just want the straight facts, quick. We talked a little bit about state of trucking, what banks will fund what, and what's getting easier and what's getting harder. All right, go. Tell them.
Yeah, so it's definitely gotten more challenging to fund owner operators over the road. It's a lot more acceptable right now to fund local truckers, anything vocational, trucking related, dump trucks, flatbeds, heavy haul trailers along those lines are a little more acceptable right now with the banks. When it comes to tougher credits, things like that, yeah, there are still options out there for you. I understand you're going to be paying a heavy down payment on your values because banks don't want to over truck prices right now. They really want to be safe in their position from day one. We're still lending. We're still helping people grow their business from single operators to fleets. But it's not as easy, and we don't have as many options as we had 2 years ago. So, but we can still help people for sure.
What's going on, Mutha Truckers? Welcome to Mutha Trucker News. Email us at muthatruckernews@gmail.com. We got the CEO, the president, the owner, Bob Booth of the funding booth. And we're here today to talk about the state of the economy when it comes to trucking. And, Bob's a great friend of mine, and really understanding how the equipment world is going actually will give all the listeners and all the truck drivers a better understanding of the trucking economy, and on a financing standpoint, what banks are looking at and what they're nervous about and what they're excited about. So welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me on again, man.
Hey, always, man. We've been friends a long time, man. We've been friends. These are good.
Ups and downs, right? It's always appreciate you, brother. I do, man. And appreciate the followers. I know we helped out a lot of people over the years. So happy to be on here and talk through kind of where we're at, right? Like we were chatting earlier. Where's the trucking business now from a finance perspective versus a couple years ago? It's still around. There's a focus in different areas. So we can talk about that today where, there's advantages in certain sectors where banks are still looking at deals, the right way versus scrutinizing deals because of a particular sector, like, long haul, single owner operator type of thing. So we can definitely talk through that and kind of where we're at, state of the finance space. Yeah, so it depends on what your plan is, right? You really have to have a set goal in mind. If you don't, and you're just going to jump into it, hitting the load boards and watching different videos to try to get you up and running, doing things like that. We found that right now is not a good time to jump into the driver's seat, right? There's a lot of scrutiny on, number one, credit, also loan to value on vehicles. So because the truck prices were so inflated a few years ago, what we've been seeing lately is a lot of clients, defaulted on their trucks. So when the banks bought really high, now the prices of the trucks have come down super low. It makes them think twice about, lending 95 or 100%, or in some cases, even 75% of the loan to value on a truck, right? They may be asking for more, of a down payment on those trucks nowadays because they want to cover their backs when it comes to LTV. Uh, you know, but when it comes to, if you do have a lane, like for instance, we just helped a guy a couple weeks ago, Alex. He grew up in the industry. His father was in the log and haul business for a long time. He had the connections. He knew right off the jump he was going to go out and make 20 to 30 grand a month. Those are the types of owner operators, new businesses, new drivers. He was a fresh CDL driver too. Those are the types of opportunities that still make sense, right, for the single truck owner operator. Somebody, you have a lane, you have a contract. It's not just general freight and going to go out there and not be home for months on a time. They're looking at more particular situations. What's going on? We are too. We don't want to set somebody up with a loan. Just because we can get them approved, if they don't really know what they're doing, that's going to come back to us in a couple months. That's going to be a headache. Now it's a collection nightmare because the customer didn't plan for unexpected breakdowns. All the working capital expenses you need, and they may have spent the last couple bucks just to get into the truck. Now, you're making what, $140, $150.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it's
yeah.
so for all the listeners, the ones that are, don't have the experience and just thinking about jumping in, and you might have the money to buy a truck because you're coming from a different industry and you saved up and you think it's the way. We're basically telling you right now, definitely get your ears wet, be a company driver, learn the business, because the days of just jumping in a truck and jumping on the load board, you will fail. Even though truck prices are low, there's a reason for that, because nobody's buying a truck when you're doing pretty much general freight right now. And that's no hate to anyone. So please, don't feel like you're being attacked here. It's
Right.
just, I mean, there's always outliers and there's people that jump in and make anything happen. But we just want to be honest with you that right now is not the best time to do that. So let's jump on to, like, the person that has, you know, um, 5 6 years experience, and they know where they're working, they have connections, they need to just go and buy a truck right now. um,
Hmm.
we talked about general freight, how banks are not comfortable if that's pretty much what you're doing, just jumping on the load board and doing dry van per se. They're not going to want to give you a loan, right?
Right. And for the most part. And the reason they're not comfortable, Alex, is because the customers that are calling those same banks that already have loans with them, they're learning why they're not able to make their payments, right? They dig into those clients. Well, what's going on? Why can't you make your payments anymore? Well, I can't even put food on the table. I can't even go home because I'm driving to make my truck payment. And by the way, I have fuel expenses. I have all these other expenses that I have to pay. Insurance, right? Insurance is crazy nowadays, right? So there's all these other expenses that may have not been accounted for before that are piling up. And yeah, when you're not making $3 a mile, you can't cover all those expenses. So what happens? So yeah, that's why, in some sense, it's put a bad taste in a lot of lenders' mouths when they're just general freight. Whereas I've gone back to underwriters and said, hey, this customer actually does more construction hauling. They haul heavy haul. They look at the deal differently in that sense, right? Because it's a different type of customer, it's a different type of client, right? They have consistent business hauling machinery or whatever it is. It's a lot different than them just hauling a dry van.
No, I
right?
hear you. Let's segue into that a little bit. What are banks feeling comfortable? If we talk about, subsections within the trucking industry, right? I mean, what is making a bank feel comfortable? What type of trucking? So maybe the audience can learn this and they go, well, I'm not trying to inflate the markets in any other sub industry, but, let's learn a little bit about what banks are feeling comfortable. So what type of
For sure.
trucking do you see, bro?
Yeah. So you mentioned like the people that 5, 6 years driving experience, right? Where we're seeing success still is with the people that are off of a lease purchase, for instance, right? Or they want to make the jump from being a lease operator to owning the truck to give them the flexibility to go out there and run. They're already running. Now they're going to make, you know, 30% more than what they were going to make before. We're seeing people still jump into those loans because it makes sense for them. They know what they're going to make. They have insurance covered by their carrier. They're a single owner operator type of thing. So in that sense, it makes sense. That's for long haul, over the road sleeper trucks. Where we're seeing a lot of deals get done still is for trucks that aren't OTR, right? Day cab, box trucks, anything vocational type. So vans, things like that, passenger vans, for different types of transportation. For instance, medical transportation, right? You're transporting patients from, elderly patients from one facility to the other. Or you're transporting medicine to the elderly that can't go out and get it. There's different areas where transportation, there's still a transportation deal. You're still transporting things and, helping things move, but you're not over the road long haul trucker, right? That's where a lot of the faults are right now. That's where a lot of banks may still offer transportation funding, but we're not going to do any long haul trucking, right? The
Really?
second
So no
over the road,
OTR, huh?
uh huh,
Man, I hear you. So okay, so let me think local out loud. Okay, so if you're, you know, they might think, a sprinter van, things like that. They might think that might not have anything to do with a trucker per se. But if we're thinking local trucking, a dump truck, you know,
dump truck.
dump truck drivers, they're still able to get loans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because a dump truck right now, obviously, there's a lot of projects going on. There's a lot of infrastructure being built with all the money that the government's spending. So there's still projects going on. You're seeing a lot still going on the government side, and the public side, not so much on the private side, right? So yeah, dump trucks. I mean, but that's the thing. When we get a dump truck funded, those customers know what they're going to make per hour. I have an opportunity to run, 8 hours a day at $130 an hour. I'm going to make this much per month. And by the way, I'm going to have this work for the next 2 years because I know the contract that is hiring me. Right. Those are the situations where it's going to make sense, and you're still going to be able to get looked at by a lot of the larger banks, right? We'll still be able to do those deals. It's the yeah, like dump trucks, tow trucks, for instance. Towing's always been a tougher industry, but overall, we're still getting those deals done. And at a lot of different lenders that in some cases they won't even look at OTR stuff, right? So any type of specialty vehicles, anything like that, trailers are another good asset still. Because if you're buying a trailer, you already have a truck, right? So typically you're buying the trailer to if you're leasing a trailer or renting a trailer, obviously you're buying it to make more money on your hauls and own it at the end of the day. If you're just power only right now, you're going to buy the trailer to make more money on your hauls. So, it makes sense. How do we see that, right? How can we tell? Well, we're going to look at the customer's available debt, right, on the personal side a lot of times. If they're running high credit card balances and their loans are high up there, they're not paying down their debts. In our minds, we're thinking, oh, wait, they're crunched for cash, right? Second, we see that, we're going to ask for your bank statements. If your bank statements, 50 grand's going in, but 51's going out every month, and you've got negative bank statements, that's not a good file right now. You know what I mean? So there's different things that we look at, but that's how we'll gauge, how well the customer's doing. Are they making money? Are they keeping halfway decent balances? We don't expect them to have a ton of money in their accounts. At the end of the day, they can't go negative. do, we have programs, but they're not going to be very competitive. So at what point does it make sense for you to explore?
I hear you, man. So yeah, it sounds like if you want some financing done right now, truck drivers, uh, OTR is pretty much out the window unless it's very specialized, and anything local. So if you're doing some local trucking of sorts, banks might feel a little bit more comfortable because a lot of local jobs, there's contracts in place. Sometimes is hourly paid in place, and so that's pretty much the state of trucking right now. No, I appreciate you just for being honest. A lot of guys
Yeah,
might be like, "Chuck, give me a call. I can do any financing out there," but
yeah.
it's that's not where it's looking at. So
Well, the truth is this, Alex. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, brother, but the reality is this: like, we're still funding those type of deals, OTR, and we have options for all the credits and all the situations, but we don't have nearly as many options as we had a year ago, right? And compare that to 2 years ago, even more so, right? Because the lenders that are still funding in that space, they've tightened their requirements quite a bit, right? And for instance, we used to have probably 8 different subprime options, for people with less than 600 credit, and now that's dwindled down to like half. So we have like 4 options. So we just don't have a lot to consider. And when that comes into play, now you're about, all right, now we're only going to finance 20, 17 or 18 trucks. Now age requirements and mileage requirements come into the play. So yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot harder on the OTR side to finance the trucks. But I don't want it to seem like we're not financing any at all.
yeah,
It's
no,
still
I hear you.
doable.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I hear you. No, it's just good to be honest and let them know. At the end of the day, if you guys have any questions, give Bob a call. He's a good friend of mine. He'll always be honest with you. If you just don't have the experience in trucking right now, just don't do it. I mean, that's the thing. Be a company driver, man. Be a company driver. There's no shame in that. It's better than losing a truck, and the bank doesn't want you to lose a truck either. So you don't want to go through all that. So, no, anything you
Right.
want to leave people with?
No, I would say, yeah, like you said, man. Don't be scared if you want to get into this. Learn the business first. Make the connections. Put yourself in the spot to win. If you don't have great credit right now and you're looking to get into a truck, like expect to pay high interest rates and a heavy down payment. Figure out if it makes sense for you or not. If you don't have good credit, work with your credit repair company to get it better. There's so many resources out there nowadays where you can improve yourself, put yourself in a better position to, purchase a truck, help your business grow. But at the end of the day, I would say this, Alex. If anybody does want to explore the truck financing, you can plug in your link that we have for you. It's a simple pre-approval process. Doesn't impact the credit at all. It's a soft inquiry. If the customer follows the directions, fills out the information, we're basically giving them a free consultation as to what they can qualify for. But again, we ask for that information up front because we try to give them a straight answer, right? We've had a lot of conversations before with customers over the phone, and then we're going to get the information afterwards. Everything I said over the phone before I had the app doesn't matter because it's not actually accurate, right? So, yeah, if you're listening, check out the link, hit us up. Let us know if you want help. We're an open book. We'll let you know if it's a good fit or not.
Hey, there it is. No, I appreciate you, man. No, thanks.